Can AI help you to heal your nervous system? Should people with anxiety or chronic pain or chronic conditions be using AI like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, all the ones that are out there in order to help them to heal their nervous system? I am going to give you my honest opinion, and my guess is that it's probably not going to be what you think. You're going to know by the end of this video exactly whether or not an AI chatbot is actually going to be helping or hurting. The truth is that ChatGPT or other chatbots can be incredibly helpful to some people. And on the opposite end, it can completely wreck other people. And like all tools, the difference isn't about the tool. It's where you are when you pick the tool up. I recovered from 20 years of chronic anxiety and 2 years of pretty severe body-wide chronic pain. And I did all of that without ever using AI. I didn't talk to ChatGPT. I didn't use any of these chatbots. It's not that they didn't exist. I just wasn't aware of them. I'm sure I would have. And at this point, I'm like, thank God I didn't. So what I'm going to walk through today is, when does ChatGPT help? When does it hurt? Like, when does it make things dramatically worse? And the one question to ask yourself before you ever open it again. I'm probably going to be mentioning ChatGPT throughout this video, but just please know this applies to any of these AI chatbots that you are talking to. So the question of the day is, does AI or can AI help when you are on a nervous system healing and desensitizing journey? And the honest answer for that is, like every tool, in my opinion, on every tool, is it depends. And what it depends on isn't the AI. It isn't the specific chatbot. It isn't the time of day. It's the person using it and the state that person is in while they're using it. And as you've probably heard me talk about from the beginning, I really see recovery in two distinct phases. So you may hear me more often responding to phase 1 versus phase 2. And I'm going to address both phase 1 and phase 2 throughout this video and throughout videos in the future. And what you'll find between the two phases is we can be looking at the same tool, whether it's AI or any of the other tools that are available out there. And two people can be using the same tools with completely different effects and completely different outcomes. So let's talk about phase 1 specifically, because in phase 1, AI, chatbots, ChatGPT, Claude, all of them will absolutely wreck you in this phase. And a lot of my content is built around the phase of severe sensitization. So if you are in phase 1, which many people are before they start applying these principles and start applying this work, you are stuck in a chronic fear loop around your symptoms, around your sensations, around your diagnoses. So you're at this place where every single twinge, every new symptom, every increasing symptom, every weird thought is getting a response from you. Now, this can be a response internally where we're looping on it. You'll hear me refer to this all the time as this sensitization loop, that we are doing something about it. We're either trying to figure it out in our head, we are overthinking it, we are catastrophizing it, we are trying to solve it, or behaviorally, we're taking a lot of action to try to fix, to try to figure out, to try to solve, to try to eliminate what it is we are experiencing. So remember, we have the symptoms, we have whatever you're experiencing in your body, in your mind, and then we have the distress. We have the distress about the symptoms. And the initial work that we're working on is reducing the distress. You can call it whatever you want: distress, fear, terror, panic, that loop of our feelings about our experience, our feelings about our sensations, our fear about our symptoms, that chronic loop. It's both mental and behavioral. So if you are living in chronic doubt and chronic fear, and you have a lot of compulsive behaviors around your doubt and your fear and your symptoms, both mentally and behaviorally, AI is not the move for you. The real problem here is not ChatGPT. The real problem here isn't the AI or the chatbot in and of itself. The problem, though, is that it is involved in the same loop. So loops like asking your partner for reassurance, going to the ER, Googling, Reddit, Facebook groups, all the compulsive behaviors built around figuring it out, getting to a solution, not being with the discomfort, trying to make what you're feeling go away. And ChatGPT just came on the scene and made this 100 times easier for us to do. It's faster than the normal reassurance we're used to. It's smarter. It has access to so much information, and it's more available. It doesn't matter anytime, day or night, never gets tired, never runs out of steam. It can go for hours and hours and hours with you with every different type of question, concern, anything going on in your head. It's a nightmare for people who are struggling with anxiety and people who are stuck in that very severe sensitization loop. So let's talk about that reassurance loop and what the problem with that is, because this applies. It applies whether we're talking about AI or we're talking about any other behavior that is compulsive in nature and reassurance seeking. Each time you ask ChatGPT something, you're going to get brief relief. You're going to get a little bit of a break from what you were feeling. Unfortunately, on the other end of that is a bigger spike, causing the need for more reassurance. So AI is a very, very special type of loop. We have these mental loops and we have these behavioral loops, but if you think about it in terms of AI, there is something that happens for us when we are stuck in the sensitization loop where anything unanswered feels very dangerous to us. And we feel really on alert. And if we have this thought that if I can just pull out my phone, pull out my iPad, pull out my computer, type in a question, there is something that's very intelligent, has a lot of information, and can work based off of exactly what I give it, that's going to instantly give me information that could make me feel better, that could make me feel calmer, that could make me feel more clear, give me some clarity. And again, this is a nightmare because we are avoiding feeling uncomfortable. We are getting the dopamine hit and that brief relief of being like, oh, okay, I understand this a little bit. And then as soon as we feel uncomfortable again, we get back into that loop and it becomes very compulsive and very reassurance seeking and very unhealthy for our brain and contributes to more focus, fear, and attention on the symptoms, because that is another way, and I want you to hear me very clearly when I say this, that you are interacting and having a relationship with these symptoms, aka from like a neuroscience perspective, looping and firing and wiring these things in the brain over and over and over again, because we have some type of trigger, which is a symptom. We respond to that trigger with opening up ChatGPT and typing in a question. We get relief, we feel a little better, and then in the future, we are very driven to take that action again, because it's a very easy, low-hanging fruit, so low-hanging to be able to get very quick relief. This is dangerous in the form of how the brain works and the way that we are already trained as a society to be on the lookout for quick hits of relief and anything that helps us to avoid being with something discomfortable. Uncomfortable. Avoid being with anything uncomfortable. We already struggle with that. We have a phone, we have a little device in our pocket that we can pick up at any time and avoid what we're feeling. AI chatbots work the same way. And I want you to know that every round that you do of engaging with that loop is actually training your nervous system to need more of it. Yikes. Uh-oh. Not what we want to be doing. So at the end of the day, no matter what your brain tells you, this isn't researching. This is compulsive reassurance seeking. And yes, if you are in that compulsive fear loop around your symptoms, it is a compulsive behavior. It is reassurance seeking, and it is not helpful for your recovery at this stage. I really do think of how I would have used this technology if I had had access to it 2 years ago. And I think it would have been a nightmare. I was already getting such a hit of relief by my researching. It was crazy because I was feeling so scared. I remember feeling like my whole body was like buzzing on fire, and like the adrenaline, I just felt like my whole body was pulsing when I was on Google, when I was on Reddit, when I would find a thread in a Facebook group related to my condition and add 42 comments. And it was borderline euphoric, which you can imagine. That's a real shift from feeling terror. I mean, honestly, I think they probably feel similar in the body physiologically, but it was like, oh my God, like, what could this be? The possibility of an answer, of clarity. Like, that's what we want so badly when we're stuck in this loop. And it's the worst thing for us to find. We have to be walking in the polar opposite direction, the direction of sitting with uncertainty, being okay with not knowing, being okay with maybe knowing that we're doing something wrong. Maybe we aren't doing the right thing. Can we be okay with that? Can we accept that? Can we begin to get better at living with uncertainty versus training our brain to live in the state of these chronic high alert behaviors, which our phone, research, AI bots are all directly related to these high alert behaviors. They keep your brain on that state of high alert, which, as you know, is the opposite of what we're trying to create, which is safety, which is less hypervigilance. Let's talk about the pushback that I'm inevitably going to get. I'm not going to talk about the pushback on AI and whether it's good to use or bad to use. That's not what we're talking about in this video, because regardless of whether or not you think it's good or bad to use, lots of people are using it. And then some people will say, actually, ChatGPT helped me figure out something really important, or ChatGPT has been better than my therapist, or whatever. In some way, shape, or form, it has been helpful. I'm not going to to argue about that with you. I had a time where my dog was like kind of had her lip raised and she had it like that for a week. And I asked ChatGPT and it asked me a bunch of questions and it said, you know what? It probably is some piece of fluff that she has in her nose. None of these things are concerning. And I wasn't sensitized at that point, and I thought, oh, that makes sense. It said expect it for maybe around a week. It should resolve, completely resolved. And she has a very fluffy dog bed. Made perfect sense to me. But in the past, I wouldn't have been able to take that as an answer. So it shows you same tool, different state. The state of my nervous system would have been different 2 years ago than the state of my nervous system 6 months ago. And I know I'm going to get some pushback just in some way about how it has been helpful for you. And what I want to push back on you a little bit with around that is helpful how? Did it help you calm yourself temporarily in the moment, or did it help you actually heal this loop that you're stuck in? Make sure you watch to the end of this video because I'm going to give you multiple different questions that you can run this through to figure out for you and your state right now, is it actually a helpful tool for you to use? So make sure you watch till the end. But I want you to remember that helping you calm down in the moment versus helping you heal the root of this issue of sensitization are two very, very different things, and we can't get them confused. Helping just because it made you feel better, I don't really care, because there is a difference between getting relief and actually recovering. I actually did a full audio of that in the coaching broadcast for those of you who have bought the course. So make sure that you listen to that audio, because there's a very big difference between I feel better and I'm actually recovering. I'm actually getting better. Let's just go ahead and get into the questions right now. Let's talk about the actual filter for figuring out if this is something that could possibly be supportive to you right now, or if it's something that honestly, from my heart, the best thing for you would be to avoid this tool because it's not actually helping. It's actually, for most people in phase 1, reinforcing the alarm, reinforcing the loop, and reinforcing this chronic attention that you're paying to your symptoms. You will find that my teaching around people who are in phase 1 in this severe sensitization loop does not include focusing in on the body, which a lot of tools and practitioners out there are talking about putting attention on the body and changing the way you relate to it. In phase 1, in my opinion and my experience, we don't want to be paying too much attention to the body. We want to be making our symptoms very, very unimportant to us. Very, very boring. We want to be, I don't care about that, which is challenging, right? That is challenging work. But I find that in phase 2, it's a lot easier to turn toward the symptoms. In fact, really quick side note, I found that when I was about, I'd say maybe 75% of what I would consider recovered, I was able to look at my body in a way that someone may refer to as like somatic tracking and really be able to engage with genuine curiosity, not forced curiosity, genuine curiosity. My face is interpreting a tickle of tingling as very dangerous. It's starting to amplify that as pressure and pain and aching, but it's not dangerous. Like, you just have the capacity, same tool, different state. I need to say that so explicitly. It's not about the tool, it's about the state. And if you're in that severe sensitization loop, using a tool from that state is not going to be helpful. It can actually be doing the complete opposite of what you want it to do. When you're not in that state anymore, same tool. Oh, I get what they meant. Curiosity. Okay. I can do curious. I can curiously look now. Okay. So I just want to, in regards to AI, meditation, visualization, journaling, somatic tracking, all of these tools work so much better in phase 2. Okay. And the cooler thing is that once you're in phase 2, you don't need them. You don't rely on them. Okay. Anyways, back to what we were talking about. The questions, these are questions that I think are going to make it crystal clear for you. You're going to know by the end of this video exactly whether or not an AI chatbot like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini is actually going to be helping at this stage or hurting. And then after I get into these questions, we're going to get into phase 2. We're just going to quickly go over in what ways it could be helpful. Okay, question number 1 is, if you have one of these apps on your phone, you're paying for this subscription or using the free version, I guess, how many times a day are you using it in relation to your symptoms? I'm going to give you a minute to answer that question very, very honestly. How many times a day are you opening one of these chatbots to ask it a question? Anything more than one is probably too much. Even daily use, I would say, is too much. And I know a lot of you are going to be like, uh-oh, because I can't tell you the increase that I've had in comments lately in my comment sections on YouTube and on Instagram, TikTok, of people saying that like, I am on ChatGPT all the time and they're trying to pull back on it. And I think that's an amazing decision. And once you understand like what I've been teaching in this video, you'll be like, okay, I can see how this could be a problem. So that's the first question. How often are you using it? If it's more than once a day, I would be really curious what the content of these conversations is. And I mean like one conversation. I guess maybe I don't even want to clarify that because you could just be talking in one conversation all day. 2 questions a day is probably too much. And that may feel extreme, but I care about you and I care about what this behavior is doing in your brain. That's the spot I'm coming from. The second question I want you to ask yourself is, if I told you you couldn't use ChatGPT for the next 4 weeks, what happens in your body when I say that? How do you feel? Are you scared? Are you feeling panic? Like if I was like, give me your phone, I'm deleting this app. I'm locking you out of it. You don't have access to it for 4 more weeks. If you had an unfavorable response in your body, if you felt really, really scared, if you felt panicked, if you felt terror, if you felt tightness, if you felt dread, if you were like, I can't breathe. That is the answer to your question. That's the answer to the question of whether or not this is helpful for you. And then I want to take that question just a little bit deeper because these questions actually apply to any tool. So please use them for everything that you feel like is just supportive to you that you're not using in a supportive way, that you're using in a compulsive way. The first question, the first sub question here is, how bad do you need it? How bad do you feel like you need to and must be doing this tool every single day? The next thing to ask yourself is, how desperate are you to feel better? Because any tool used from desperation isn't going to work anyway. So it's a waste of your time. Another thing to ask is, how would you feel if you skipped it for a day? Maybe it would be worth it to find out. All of those questions give you more insight about whether or not it's healthy for you right now. And when we are doing things because we feel like we need to, because we are desperate to feel better, and because we don't know how we would survive without them, that is the red flag. Okay, that is the red flag, giving you all the information that you need. What you need to know is the more that you need something external to feel better internally, the more you are a prisoner to that thing. It doesn't matter if it's ChatGPT, Google, your therapist, your husband, any tool. Compulsive use of it is just another way to avoid discomfort. There is a way to healthily use tools. I use tools throughout my life intuitively as I feel called to use them for whatever length of time I feel called to use them for. And the tools I love the most are the tools that help me get more into my life. That's what I love about this work. I love it. I love phase 1. I love phase 2 because everything I did in phase 1 and phase 2 helped me get back into my life, helped me reconnect and rebuild a beautiful life that I am fully engaged with. Not a rigid schedule where I have tools that I need to micromanage myself all day long. I don't want a life where I have to talk to ChatGPT all day. I don't want a life where I have to question everything I'm doing, where I have to outsource what I need to something outside of myself. You need to know that if you skip ChatGPT, you're still going to be okay. If you don't have access to that app, you're still going to be okay. We don't want any tool that we have to rely on in order to be okay or feel okay. And chatbots completely fall into that category for most people in phase 1. Any tool you use should be something that adds to your life and helps you get more into your life, not something that you're using to barely make it by every single day. When I am talking to you on this channel and anywhere you hear me talking, I am talking about true healing. Actual recovery, not Band-Aid solutions. Okay, that's the place I'm always coming from. Let's quickly go over where ChatGPT can actually help. When you are in phase 2, you are going to know you're in phase 2 because you are out of the chronic fear loop. You have built a genuine capacity to be able to be with discomfort. And I'm so proud of you if you're here. Drop in the comments if you're in phase 1 or phase 2. I want to kind of like get a feel for the people that are watching this video. Are you in phase 1? And be very honest with yourself. If you are stuck in chronic fear loops and compulsive behaviors around your symptoms, you are in phase 1. That's okay. It's a beautiful place to grow from. If you're in phase 2, you have some capacity. You are building back that capacity. You have distress tolerance. You are able to be with what is uncomfortable. You are getting more and more neutral toward your sensations every day. This does not mean you're out of any fear ever. This does not mean that you don't ever have doubt pop up. It means that you have really broken the pattern of the compulsive behaviors, and your symptoms are a lot more boring to you at this point. And at this point, your nervous system and your symptoms are not running your life anymore. They're not running your day. They're not running your decisions. You are living a lot more of your life with symptoms present, and maybe they're a little bit less chronic, but the real thing that isn't chronic anymore is the fear and the compulsive behaviors. Let's talk about what changes during this stage, because it's very important, and it's tricky because it's very different than phase 1. This is a place where reassurance actually lands. It's a beautiful place to be, because you can have a time where you're spiraling out, and you maybe watch a video on YouTube, and maybe you watch one of my videos and I say something, and you may have been in the middle of a freak out, which is not the ideal time to be watching a video. But again, you're out of that chronic loop, so it's not as big of a deal. So you watch a video, I remind you of something, and you go, oh yeah, I know what's going on. I know what this is. I'm going to put down the content. I'm going to get back into my life. And you start working through flares really, really quickly. But it's weird because reassurance actually does what it is supposed to do, which is it reminds you. I see reassurance in phase 2 as something that reminds you of something you already know. It does calm you down, but more importantly, it gets you back on track quickly. So in what way could ChatGPT be helpful in that scenario? You may use it to ask a question. You may use it to say, I'm kind of freaking out and forgetting what I learned. And maybe it provides some type of reassurance that reminds you something and has your reaction being something like, oh yeah, I know this. Yeah. That's just the reminder that I needed back into life. It doesn't become a compulsive conversation where you're going back and forth and you're like, I'm just so scared. I don't know what to do. That's just falling back into the loop. But something where you search for something and it gives you some type of reminder and you go, okay, anyways, back into life. As I'm talking about this, I'm realizing, do you see how like non-dramatic it is? Do you see how it's just kind of like, I don't have a ton to say about this other than there's a good chance that you can use ChatGPT or any type of AI-powered chatbot in a way that isn't compulsive. And you're going to know that. If you fall into compulsive behaviors, you need to know, this isn't me in phase 2. This is actually me falling back into the loop of phase 1, which is very common for people to do when they've gone a stretch of time feeling good and have fallen back into the old behaviors because of fear, normally due to some type of flare-up of symptoms. So the goal isn't to do really well, have a flare-up and jump right into ChatGPT or jump right back into all this chronic reassurance. So you have to be able to know, am I falling back into the old loop, or am I at a place where I'm like, I just need a reminder? That is the reason why, like, I teach what I teach with the course that I have, but I also have information and coaching and teaching and deep dives that are supplemental to that information, because at the end of the day, we need the information to apply it. But there's other information that can be helpful that boosts the work that you're already doing, but also must not be used in a compulsive manner. So again, it's not the chatbot that's the problem. It's not the content that's the problem. It's not the fact that certain things exist that is the problem. It's the state that you are in when you use it. And does it drive you to stay in that state, to keep asking questions, to keep looking at content, to start hopping coaches and content and trying to figure things out? Or does it give you that little hint of reassurance that you need so that you remember what you already know? This is based on the assumption that you've already laid the foundation of the desensitization work, and that what you do in phase 2 is just simply things that help remind you of the foundation that you already set. That is why phase 1 is very important, and why you shouldn't be super interested in hopping to phase 2. We get to phase 2 when we're ready, and we are the most ready for that work and those changes and the rebuilding of life when we have set a very, very solid foundation of phase 1 work around acceptance, indifference, distress tolerance, allowing our symptoms, getting back into life with the capacity that we have and building that capacity. That is not the time for a chatbot. That is not the time. I want you to go ahead and just delete ChatGPT off of your phone. Stop using it. Stop using it if you are in that stage, and use those questions. Ask yourself, if I feel really uncomfortable giving this up for 4 weeks, it is showing me and giving me the answer that I need it more than is good for me right now. It is showing me that I'm using it as a crutch. I'm using it as just another way to avoid what I'm feeling. Just throw it in the pile of avoidance behaviors. ChatGPT is an avoidance behavior for anybody who is stuck in the chronic sensitization loop. And ChatGPT is whatever for someone who's not stuck in the loop, because it's just not a problem. It's something that they forget they even have. Imagine that. If you're someone who cannot forget that ChatGPT exists, the goal is to be someone who goes, oh, I could ask AI if I wanted to, but you don't need to. Anything external that you feel like you need to be okay is a sign that you're using it to avoid doing the actual work. And that's good to know. Your body will make that information very, very apparent very quickly. It'll show you by that panic that you feel about giving it up that you're using it in a way that is compulsive. If you resonate with the content that I post here, please make sure that you like this video. Please make sure that you subscribe, engage, hype up the video, and let me know your thoughts about this video. And I will see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.